you.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
If I could only pass for 18, I probably would have answered. But it also ties in to the UN's Sustainable Development Goals.
Yes, eradicating poverty.
Eradicating poverty. But what is incredible as well is that it ties back into what you were saying about young people actually having a voice. And that is a focus of the United Nations as well, getting youth more involved.
Yes. Yes, and also we have situations in our country, you would see videos and you would see all sorts of negative connotations towards our young people. And that's not really the true picture of young persons in this country. We have very kind, we have very hardworking and constructive young persons, and it's a chance for them to be front and center instead of just negative issues.
What it also does, I suppose, is that it's stimulating the creative mindset of these young people as well.
Yes, and we are living in a digital age. You see all the different YouTube videos and Instagram and all of these things, so why not harness social media and videography for something positive? You know?
Now, the tagline is erasing poverty with my pen.
Yes.
Let's expand on that. The pen is mightier than the
sword. Exactly. So we have the video aspect of it, but it's spoken word, it's poetry. So you're causing these young persons to tap into different skills. And it's not just focusing on what the aesthetic is, although that is important. It's also having them challenge themselves to come up with their thoughts and what they understand to be extreme poverty and what could be done, because poverty is the inability of persons to meet their basic needs, right? That's just a layman definition without going too much into the academia of it. And what you find happening is we live in such a age where we can get things easily. It's hard to understand sometimes that persons wouldn't have access to what we might take for granted. And it also stimulates the thought process of these young people, and it also causes them to go to the Ministry of Social Development website, right, www.social.gov, to look and see at the programs that are available for persons who will be vulnerable and who will need assistance, so they will understand what interventions are there. And then as a young person too, if they see something that they think is missing, they could put their suggestions in their spoken word. There's no limit really to what they could say.
Well, I could tell you that for a plus, if anyone is visiting the Ministry's website, it is a lot better, well structured than many other websites I've seen locally.
It's an excellent website.
Actually, it's very well put together. It's very easy to navigate and very easy to get information. I understand what inspired this competition, and I understand the theme for the competition. But what do you hope the response would be? What is the overall end goal for this competition?
The overall end goal for this competition is to have young people understand that they could determine the outcome of decisions, that it's not always above their heads or being made for them. They could actually speak and they could have a voice and they could empower themselves to say what they would like to see, because we're not going to be here forever, and they're going to be the ones that are going to take over and have to make decisions, right? So the end of it is duly to allow them to be empowered and also to have a sense of empathy, to really put themselves in a frame of mind to understand what persons go through who are less fortunate or vulnerable, because part of poverty means that you don't necessarily have to stay in it. It could be for a period of time. And building resiliency means that when difficult situations happen, persons could go through them with a measure of success, right? And we've seen various success stories in our own country, persons who grew up less fortunate and still did successful and admirable things. So that as well, a third thing is that it could also increase their confidence in themselves. They could probably see themselves, because not all the persons who are participating will be at the same economic level, I'm assuming. And they could actually see themselves when they're doing the spoken word and like, I can come out of this, I could be better and I could do more. So it's also a personal aspect. You know?
So inspiring themselves through their inspiration.
Yeah.
That's incredible, actually. That's well thought of. But why spoken word? Over poetry. I know that within recent times we've seen the rise of spoken word through, for example, the 2 Cents movement. But why spoken word in particular?
Trinidad is a very creative, Trinidad and Tobago, we are a very creative country. and we have untapped talent. We are yet to see, I think, the best of what can come because our young people constantly outdo themselves. And we believe that let's give them a chance to show us what they have, because we expect excellence from our young people.
Well,
yeah.
I agree with that. But the criteria, because at the beginning I know you mentioned it's open for students between the ages of 14 and 18.
Correct.
But are there any other criteria that is necessary?
Sure. So the video cannot be more than 4 minutes in length, and if you see me glancing down, it's because my memory is not what it used to be.
That's absolutely fine.
So the recording should be done in landscape mode, and the persons who are recording, just make sure that your background is quiet enough. And if you don't have a ring light, you can use natural sunlight. It's quite effective when doing videos. And participants have to indicate their age, their name, contact details, including phone number, and where applicable, affiliated schools. Because we understand some persons 14 to 18 may be homeschooled, but that is no barrier to applying. Once you're between those ages and a citizen or resident of Trinidad and Tobago, you are free to enter this competition, right? And there's also an app called WeTransfer that assists persons in sharing large files, so they can share those to the email sid@social.gov.tt when they complete their videos. And the winner will be chosen based on judging criteria as stated, you know, for the length of the video, the diction, their clarity, the flow of it, and we will be bringing on a professional along with other persons to judge. So, you know, we're taking this seriously.
You are?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's any way that after the judging of the competition where we could have the winners actually, we can show their presentation here on the program. So something to consider as well.
Yeah, communications and the Ministry of Social Development will
Now we're
be
hinting
in
it to you
touch.
this way. You just have to pass on the message.
Yeah. I'm the messenger this time.
But just to actually clarify, they have to submit to the email. What's that email again?
SID, it could be lower or uppercase, @social.gov.tt.
Where could people get more information on this?
So they can go to Ministry of Social Development website. I think I said it. It's social.gov.tt, and they would get further information. And we really hope that persons will just enjoy the process as well. It might be a competition, but it's also something to have fun with. You can do something constructive and still have fun and still be yourself, right? And in terms of sharing the videos and whatnot, we will have to get permissions from parents for persons under 18, etc. That will just be, you know, the necessary, yes, because it's minors.
So I don't know if this has been revealed as yet, but one of the biggest incentives for anyone participating in a competition is
prizes.
What the prizes are.
Right. So we have electronic devices that can be won. I would let them go on the website so they could see, but it's they're nice prizes. They're nice. I promise.
Actually, I think you said electronic devices, and all young people would have already just gotten excited.
Yeah.
So even I got excited by that.
I believe some type of tablet is involved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, in this day and age, tablets are not a bad thing.
Yes.
Well, Ms. Balchan, I want to thank you very much. Have I missed anything? Is there anything else that we missed?
I believe that you covered all the points, and once again, it's to reiterate that young persons have a voice, and we would love to hear what our young people have to say, because a lot of times young people say, oh, nobody wants to listen, and nobody cares. I was young a very long time ago, and I believe the sentiment could remain the same. So we at the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services are interested in what our young people have to say.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Well, folks, if you have a voice and you'd like it to be heard, if you have a lot to say on improving the social protection systems, if you have opinions on eradicating poverty here in Trinidad and Tobago, and especially if you're a young person who really is in touch with their country, who sees themselves as a patriot, who really wants to help Trinidad and Tobago, have your voice heard by being a part of the competition. As Ms. Balchin mentioned, it is open until March 15th, 2024, until 4 p.m. There are criteria to be met. You can get that information via the Ministry of Social Development's website. But just to inform you that all submissions are to be made via the WeTransfer. Well, it's a website. It's very easy to use. You just have to Google WeTransfer. It's the first thing that pops up. You'll upload your video there and send it to sid@social.gov.tt. But as I mentioned, for all the information and more, you can visit the ministry's website. And best of luck to everyone participating, and we look forward to your presentations. I'm not judging, but I definitely look forward to seeing the talent that TNT has to offer, because I know it's a lot out there. Ms. Balchin, thanks so much for joining me on the program this morning.
You're welcome, Keaton.
Do have a good day, and well, March 15th is closing, so we'll speak again after that.
Yes, you have a great day too.
Thank you. All the best.
Okay.
All right, folks, let's take a break here on the program, and when we return, well, we've got some regional updates to share with you this morning, so we'll be right back after this.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Take some time for yourself or spend some time with the family at Sandy Point Village Hotel. Enjoy our various studio and suite apartments, self-contained with their own kitchenettes and Wi-Fi. We also have our famous 100-foot swimming pool and our beachfront restaurant, the Steak and Lobster Grill. And our location in Crown Point puts us near the center of activity, from the nylon pool to the local nightlife. Call us and make your reservations at 639-8533, 389-2378, or email us at sandypointvillagehotel@gmail.com.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. We have some regional updates to share with you this morning, starting with Jamaica. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has promised that another version of the raised $1.5 million Jamaican dollar tax, income tax threshold is coming. He's dubbed it 1.5 2.0. Holness made the announcement that his administration is working on income tax 1.5 2.0 and that workers should have no fear. There is some support of an increase in the income tax threshold, despite the likelihood of the move not achieving wide-scale economic relief as being touted by the government of Jamaica. Jamaica labor force comprises of 1.3 million workers, but only 400,000 people earn above 1.5 million. However, the debate continues, as we learn from this report.
Is the plan to increase the income tax threshold an election ploy?
That's the question being raised by a political commentator following recent comments from the Prime Minister.
Now, as Kirk Wright explains, calls are getting louder for the Prime Minister to be more specific.
On Saturday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness told party supporters in Trelawney that the government plans to increase the income tax threshold, but there's still no timeline on the announcement for that planned adjustment. This has caused political commentator Lloyd B. Smith to question if the proposal could be an election ploy.
I think the timing would suggest that it is an election vote-grabbing exercise, which is unfortunate because the fact that the Prime Minister was not able to give a timeline makes it just a promise. And a promise is oftentimes a comfort to a fool. If he had given a specific timeline and explained the necessary architecture through which it would be done, then I think one would have been more impressed. But just to say it's going to happen, we know that politicians always make promises that take long to happen or never happen at all. And this one seems to fall into either of those categories.
Last year, the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, suggested the income tax threshold move to $2.2 million. Finance Minister Dr. Clark promised to assess the proposal. He also argued that the government did not need an election to give back to the Jamaican people. Meanwhile, another political commentator, Dr. Paul Ashley, is concerned that the reduction in the general consumption tax would impact more Jamaicans than the proposed increase in the income tax threshold. He's also questioning how the government would regain revenue lost through an interest in the income tax threshold.
If the income tax threshold moves, you don't pay income tax, but how will GCT remain the same? Could you have a better situation that you decrease the GCT to 10% instead of 15%? So the fact is that the government won't lose revenue because the services provided by government might move up. You can have licenses moving up, you can have everything that government charges you for move up, and you can have GCT moving up too. The issue is that it seems very good if you get a break, but what about the other increases in government providing services? That's the critical issue.
Mr. Ashley says consumers need a reprieve amid increasing costs of goods and services.
And joining us now to talk about plans to increase the income tax threshold is financial analyst Dennis Chung. Mr. Chung, thanks for joining us. First of all, as you heard in the previous story, last year, CAPRA suggested that the income tax threshold should move from 1.5 million to 2.2 million. Is this proposal still feasible, or should it be adjusted?
Yeah, I don't think Capri actually said it should move. They said if you want to maintain parity with purchasing power, then it would mean moving it to 2.2. It's not practical to go there definitely in one go and without proper financing. If you look at the fiscal surplus for the 9 months, we're running about $14 billion. If you were to extend that out to the end of the year, you might end up with a fiscal surplus of close to $20 billion. If you were to increase the income tax threshold by about 500,000, it will affect about 200,000 people. It will have a direct impact on the negative impact on the fiscal revenues of 25 billion, which is more than the fiscal surplus. Assuming that some of that comes back in GCT and also, tax on people who actually earn above that, you might be looking at closer to about $15 billion. That still means that you're going to wipe out your fiscal surplus.
All right, I want to come back. I want to come back to the GCT thing you mentioned there. But before we go there, would the new public sector compensation regime have any impact on this assessment?
No. I don't think it would.
Why
not? Because you're really looking at those people in the public sector would really have been in the persons who are already benefiting the 200,000. Income tax is a very inefficient tax. For a labor force of 1.3 million, we just have about 400 and something thousand people that are on PAYE. So it's a very inefficient tax. I maintain that you need to move away from direct taxation, but the only way it can be done, I think, that makes sense for us as a country is that if you get financing elsewhere, as I was saying, I would propose that you do away with eventually and move the income tax threshold up and eventually eliminate income tax and increase GCT. That's where I would see it. That's the most efficient way for the consumer. That's the most efficient way for the economy for that to be done. But there's no other way. I hear people, as you were saying, talk about reducing GCT to 10%, and people saying increase the income tax threshold to $3 million. We'll be looking back at 2013 when the economy almost fell off a cliff. We can't afford to do that. And giving people money back in their hands without the requisite productivity increase is just going to cause inflation. So if you look at what Capri says, to bring back purchasing power parity, you have to increase it to 2.2 million. That shows the amount of how income has eroded because of inflation. And therefore, if you do that, you're going to have inflation affecting people again. So I think that, what is being said on both sides, the 3 million, which is totally impractical, and maybe looking at $2 million, is not something that you can just implement like that. I remember the last time it was done, right, when it went to 1.5. Remember that people earning over 10 million actually started paying more taxes.
Right.
So it wasn't a straight thing. It had to be financed somewhere.
All right. And
similarly, in this case, we're going to have to finance it.
Right. And that leads me to my next question. What would be the impact then on the budget if we go that route?
If you go that route, you're going to have to neutralize it, as I was saying. So you might give up something in terms of the income tax threshold on about 200,000 people, but you're going to have to find the tax elsewhere. And I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I'm saying it should be done by increasing GCT, right? Because GCT is much more efficient as a tax. But it's not a straight thing. So what people are thinking about now, we're going to get this $100,000 on our salary, because really 25% that you're getting back. But it's not straight like that. They're going to have to finance it somewhere, and they can't use a fiscal surplus to do that.
Ladies and gentlemen, so there is a lot of debate over the income tax threshold taking place in Jamaica, but from my understanding as well, Jamaica just concluded its local government elections. I do not have the results with me, but from what we understand, the JLP was leading in the majority of seats up to yesterday. Moving now to Guyana, already facing a shortage of labour, the situation can become dire in Guyana if authorities do not take steps to ensure the local labour force is increased with the workers possessing the required skills and training. A recent survey, a recent labour assessment survey at the University of Guyana details how 53,000 workers, skilled and unskilled, will be needed over the next 5 years to service the agriculture, construction, health, transportation and logistics, and oil and gas sectors. That number is steadily rising and is now estimated to be 60,000. These are just 5 of about 20 sectors currently employing, and in growing numbers, about 40% of the current workforce. So let's take a look at this report from Guyana.
Last 2 years, we've seen a doubling in terms of the labor force of the construction sector. And so for that estimate of just about close to 9,000 workers, we believe that that estimate will have to be further revised upwards. Because one of the things that we've done is to help to hold the projects that have been ongoing over the last 3 years in terms of that growth, to hold it at a steady pace. But of course, we are seeing that more and more projects continue to come on board. So we actually believe that this total of 53 may actually be just about 60,000 plus for the 5 sectors. So I want you to think about that 60,000 workers that will be needed over the next 5 years. But it also requires further changes, even in terms of some of our academic curriculum, reducing some of the length of time, for example, that we take to do some of the degrees. How can we incorporate work as well as training at the same time? So it will require adaptation as we move along. And then, of course, with any small labor pool, we have to think through mechanization. So we cannot continue to have some of our industries being heavily dependent on labor. You know, how can we mechanize to take advantage, given the fact that we do have a very small labor force in country?
Really and truly, I think the question now that we have to answer is not only what the needs are, but this data is going to help us to understand how we need to refine our own offerings and to work with other institutions that offer the similar things to really make sure that we are actually able to deliver in those sectors, but other sectors that were not covered by your work. We're doing some work internally as well at the university in terms of including now in our exit surveys of our students, questions about if they're working, if they need a job, what kind of job, if they want a part-time job, and also taking the next step to include our alum, both in country and outside of Guyana. That data should be in a couple of weeks' time. So we'll also be able to see if we have people who want to transition from one job to the next, or how much scope there is for occasional work or project work or training up, upskilling, and those kinds of things.
What we have available is 2021 data from the Bureau of Statistics. They have estimated that we've got about 289,000 persons working in Guyana as of 2021, that they make up the labor force. And if you want to take a look at which sectors these persons are concentrated in, now you can look at the difference between 2020 and 2021. Now in 2020, about 27% were within those 5 sectors that we're looking at, while about 72% were in the other sectors. But if you look at the change between 2020 and 2021, you can see that that proportion has increased within those 5 sectors, so it moved up to 30%, while in the other sectors it actually decreased to about 69.9%. Now what that's suggesting, or what that data is telling us, is that there's a shift. There's a transition from the labor from the other sectors to these 5 sectors. But what the data is also telling us is that the number of persons working has actually decreased. Now, if you look at our labor force participation rate as of 2021, it's actually only 50%. That means, you know, you've got 50% or just as many persons at home that could work, but they're just not working.
Wow, okay, so the labor forces situation in Guyana is not necessarily dire, but the number of jobs that are opening that need servicing are growing. It's a similar situation in Jamaica, particularly within the agricultural sector, but no further updates in respect to that. So let's move now to St. Lucia. Water utility officials announced plans to replace a section of pipeline aiming to improve water supply reliability after recent service interruptions frustrated residents. The Water and Sewage Company says the project targeting a key stretch between pumping stations will begin later, whether it be at the end of this month or within March. Customers in the north of St. Lucia have been without water for weeks. Wasteco says the system is in a bad shape and will require major repairs. So this report from St. Lucia.
The Water and Sewage Company held a press conference on Monday to discuss plans to improve water supply efficiency. WASCO CEO Zilda George Leslie told reporters the company aims to replace part of the 24-inch pipeline between the Millet and Verna pumping stations. She described the plan as a strategic initiative to enhance reliability.
The water supply is very compromised at this time because the pipeline, which is the main transmission pipeline, is compromised. That pipeline, and I think we need to give you a little bit of history, that pipeline goes way back. It was designed sometime in 1978, which is some 46 years ago. And of course, it was installed in the late 1980s. That pipeline was compromised from inception because it was made of mild steel. Mild steel has deteriorated over time because of the type of material and the type of soil type that we had back then. So, of course, this results currently in very high levels of water loss. These very high levels of water loss result in us having very frequent shutdowns of the water. We will get to that at a later stage because these pipelines, of course, have to be repaired so that we can provide the customers with that supply of water.
George Leslie apologized for extended supply interruptions. She explained teams were working to quickly restore service.
What we need to realize is that when this section of the network is down, it has to be brought offline for a number of reasons, of course, for repairs and maintenance. Like I said before, we have quite a few customers who are dissatisfied, which is what we're faced with currently. Those dissatisfied customers is not the entire north, but it is areas like Piat, Degazon, we have Montsepa, we have Cap Estate, we have Beauséjour, we have Kaimajé. So, and if you would follow me a bit, you would realize that all of those persons are at high elevations. So even when we have maintenance done on the pipeline, the water will be restored to most of the north, but we have this very small section where the water has not been restored. The existing 24-inch mild steel transmission pipeline between Millet and the Gravity Junction is approximately 5 kilometers long. And this 5-kilometer pipeline, currently this section is what is suffering at this current time.
WASCO says it intends to replace a section of raw water pipeline between two pumping stations.
In the meantime, what we try to do is to do what we call valving, which is actually rationing of the water. So we try to give one community one day, the next community another day. And we also use trucks to supply persons at the high elevation. It's not the best. Whenever you get into ration of water, the situation sometimes doesn't pan out to be what you expect. But that's what we have to do until that date, and it will continue this way. We ask the public for their cooperation. contact us, especially persons who have issues, because sometimes the trucks would go by and not give to everyone. We have persons on the ground, but we need the help of the public also to identify these hotspots where we have these issues. That's the most we can say. Until the shutdown, we are actually very clear on the fact that after we have repaired these leaks, things will improve.
The public has grown frustrated with Wasco's service, complaining of water shortages.
I mean, I live in an elevated area, and I can tell you, throughout the community, not just where I am, but lower down, all you hear when you call in Wasco, you're not answering the phone, the customer service is not the best, and there's a lot to be desired. That's all. What is in place to address that prior before the shutdown to ensure that these people receive water? Because that is the issue right now.
Okay. As I already mentioned, what we're going to do, we're going to intensify the trucking and valving operations. And we're actually going to put boots on the ground, have persons to go into the different communities. Another thing we plan to do also is to place tanks at strategic locations where we fill these tanks with water, which is a normal part of our dry weather, or during the drought we use that system. But it's something that we're going to put in place, starting from immediately.
Wasco plans to shut off the compromised pipeline near John Compton Dam in late February. The CEO said the company would continue updating consumers.
Water issues, whether it be supply or infrastructure, taking place all over currently, not within the region, but within the Americas, of course. Mexico City has been facing severe water shortages due to a lack of rainfall since the month of October last year. I believe the 21 million people who inhabit that city are really in dire need of supply of water. The situation there is rather alarming. Moving now to Grenada, the Ministry of Agriculture is encouraging farmers to cultivate ginger, a root crop with great potential in the international market. And to support this move, the ministry is planning to provide planting material to farmers in the coming weeks. So, focusing on more spice from the spice aisle. Let's take a look at this report.
Over 2,000 pounds of ginger were this week harvested at the Marable Propagation Station, an initiative aimed at providing additional planting material to farmers with the hope of ultimately boosting production of the crop on the island. Some of the crops were lost through predial larceny, according to Troy Augustine, the agronomist overseeing ginger production at the propagation station. Despite this loss, the 12,000 square feet germplasm plot yielded more than 50 crates of ginger in a single day. He explained that the Ministry of Agriculture is actively promoting increased ginger production among farmers as part of its efforts to tap into export markets.
What we have seen is that we have incorporated the ginger with pen manure. Farmers don't have to spend so much money on that in terms of buying fertilizer. And the different practices that we do here is basically we want to show the farmers how to increase the production, how to get the productivity, how to get the maximum yield that they're looking for from that crop, as well as intercropping. So we are preparing a new area to plant, and we want to start replanting in the next month. From this ginger harvested here, we'll be taking a portion for our germplasm replanting, and we want to establish with the extension division working together so that farmers can also establish their own plots, and by so doing they would have sufficient for that market, as well as keeping back planting material for themselves.
Given the upcoming export opportunities in collaboration with Salicious Trading and the abundance of additional planting materials, farmers are urged to cultivate quarter-acre plot of ginger and other root crops to meet the anticipated increase in demands.
After COVID, a lot of persons planted ginger, and other persons, they're not planting in a large amount, but there are key farmers that plant quite a lot. But what we've seen is that our farmers are planting, and we want to basically push that productivity, push that level so that we can push the export market. because there's a lot of money to be made from ginger. I'm going to be honest, ginger have been sold here for $10 when it's scarce, right? When there is ginger, the price don't go under $7. And I think farmers can make a sizable income in that.
Augustine emphasized the importance of training for farmers to acquire the necessary skills and techniques required to maximize the yields from ginger cultivation.
We want the farms to do acreages of ginger because ginger has a very big market. I could tell you there are farmers who earn $80,000 for ginger. Period. I mean, $7 a pound, they sell it on their own. They use the same penman, they use some different techniques, molding and stuff like that. And this is techniques that we want to showcase, highlight with farmers. We want to have training with extension so that the farmers and extension officers can see how it's done. So that areas where farmers are having climate change issues, they could divorce into another crop that can produce. And of course, once you can intercrop the ginger, you could use tomatoes, you could use watermelons, you could use corn, you could use melon, you could use seasoning pepper, quite a range of crops. So you want to show the farmers what you can do, how it can be done, and be successful at it. And by so doing, we believe that they can also own a livelihood and teach others just the same. So
the ministry is hoping to distribute the plants to farmers before the end of March.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for Regional Update here on AM Prime. We're going to take a break, and when we return, we've got some slippery serpents to share with you. We'll be right back after this.
Here is the WESN News on the Hour. I am Sarah Ali. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Health Minister criticized specific fast food brands. The hunting season is set to conclude officially on Thursday. A 32-year-old Rosilak man begged for his life before being shot dead. And regionally, Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister urges Haiti's interim leader to step aside. Now for the details. On Monday, Minister of Health Terrence Dialsing criticized specific fast food brands, reiterating concerns about the prevalence of hypertension and diabetes in the nation. Addressing attendees at the launch of the U Health and Wellness Expo at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Port of Spain, Dialsing emphasized the role of mega chains and corporations in contributing to the health challenges faced by certain segments of society. He underscored the importance of prioritizing prevention over cure in combating these health issues.
There is not enough work going on there. And even if there is enough work going on there, people are addicted to Coke and Pepsi. In the same way they are addicted to cocaine and fentanyl. They're addicted to the Fats and KFC and Royal Castle. And I'm calling brands for the first time in 8 years, because we need to face the truth. We have to work so much harder because we can't outspend Domino's, $774 million US. We can't outspend McDonald's, $638 million US. We can't outspend Wendy's, $538 million, and we surely cannot outspend Coca-Cola, $4 billion US. Coca-Cola's advertising spend last year is our budgetary allocation for the whole country.
The hunting season is set to conclude officially on Thursday, February 29th, in compliance with the Conservation of the Wildlife Act, Chapter 67(1), the 5th schedule. During the month of March, a grace period will be observed to allow for the disposal or consumption of any wild meat. It is important to note that individuals found hunting during the closed season may face penalties, including a fine of $100,000 or imprisonment for up to 6 months. On Tuesday morning, as a 32-year-old man from Rosilac, identified as Keith Branca, fell victim to a fatal shooting. Reports indicate that Branca was engaged in his duties at a drainage project on Silver Stream Road, Aripero, when the unimaginable occurred. Two masked men, clad in police attire, ambushed and fatally shot him around 8:15 a.m. Branca, a resident of Sober Village, Labre, was said to be taking a brief respite from his work of digging a drain in front of a construction site when the assailants approached. As authorities delve into this incident, investigations remain ongoing to ascertain the motive behind this senseless act of violence. In regional news, Antigua and Barbuda Prime Minister Gaston Brown reiterated his stance on Monday, asserting that Haiti's interim leader, Dr. Ariel Henry, should step aside to facilitate uninterrupted efforts in addressing Haiti's socioeconomic and political challenges. Brown, part of the Caribbean Community Delegation, attending the 46th regular summit of regional leaders in Guyana, emphasized that the Haitian issue is taking precedence during the ongoing 4-day gathering. In a recent telephone interview with the Caribbean Media Corporation, Prime Minister Brown expressed his belief that Dr. Ariel Henry's continued presence in the Haitian government exacerbates the country's challenges, which have been compounded by the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse in July 2021 and the rise of criminal gang instilling fear among citizens. With that said, to News on the Hour on WESN, I am Sarah Ali. Thank you for watching.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of this
not
game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through. Is the government losing the war on the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Dr. Nalini Kokram, on What's Up Doc, where we discuss all your burning questions concerning health.
Trinidad and Tobago is among one of the highest risk group of patients that develop this form of genetic breast cancer.
What I'd like to take home from a short interview like this, screening. You must screen
screen,
Because it's silent.
it's silent.
Yeah.
And because it's silent, you don't know it's there.
What's Up Doc, every Tuesday and Thursday on WESN, Content Capital.
You are watching Strictly Legal on WESN Content Capital. Just give an overview of what exactly is that split arrangement.
It is now you don't need to register nothing. You don't need. We can do that another time. But then it becomes a hit, and then everybody starts to want to claim.
The laws that predate many of the independent countries' constitutions are going to be those colonial laws.
We know there are an infinite amount of circumstances that would lead to a murder.
I have a great idea and, I have a great concept, but until it's actually expressed, it does not become intellectual property.
Accomplishments or targets of a forensic accountant is to quantify what may have been lost.
We believe with different criminals and we manipulated the law and we exploited the system.
A responsible journalist will reach out to the person who they have the information on for a comment.
No worries, don't despair. Ricardo Meade will be here. Just not this morning. So no worries about it, ladies and gentlemen. There will be a Wild Wednesday, but we're going to pause this morning to give Ricardo some time. Unfortunately, it seems as though the slippery snakes did slip away a bit. Never mind, that happens at times. But this is where we conclude this morning's edition of AM Prime. Thank you very much for my guest, Mr. Stephanie Balchan, for joining me on the program this morning. And we got some regional updates, and so that's good. So we're up to par with what's happening with our neighbouring islands. But a lot more conversations to come tomorrow morning. I'm Keaton Shaw, and this has been AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Wishing you a good day ahead, a productive day ahead, a safe one. We'll see you again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
WESN.
This is Face of Sports, WESN Content Capital. How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
Let's go to the last part.
Folks, we're back and better than ever.
Your show have always appeared to be a show that is focused on going to the cause or looking to the cause.
We hardly ever talk about the white-collar crime, though. We always talk about the ones that involve more as physical violence against individuals.
The citizens will only measure transmission when water starts to flow through their taps.
Because vision doesn't talk about local election.
Contract mafia that's responsible for looting the country and they own and operate these politicians.
So if you are running a country and you can't say nothing as a prime minister, please take up your bag and go.
It is not comparative to the murder figures, but it is in fact very high.
I believe he's protecting certain individuals.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
My name is Carl Media, and I'm the founder and the host of Ever Increasing Voice Ministries. Join me every Saturday and Sunday on WESN, this powerful station, at 9 a.m. on Saturdays, 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. nightly. Also on Sundays, I'll be on at 7 a.m., 1 p.m. and 7 p.m. at night time. When you come here, we are getting people heavenly ready.
The newest book is here, Closer to the Church, the debut novel by author and former mayor Louis Lee Singh. Available at all the Home Store branches, Barataria, West Mall, Shogunas and C3 San Fernando. Paper-based bookshop 10 Nook Avenue, St. Anne's. WESN 30A Gattaca Street, Woodbrook. Metropolitan Bookshop, Ariapita Avenue, Woodbrook, and all RIK bookstores nationwide. Available online as paperback on Amazon.com and Kindle for e-readers. For more info, call 628-5835 or 389-6504. Also available from author Louis Lee Singh, I Used to Live in Heaven, Letters to My Granddaughters, and Local Government in Trinidad, Conspiracy Against the People.
We are WESN, the premier platform for Caribbean content. WESN, covering West, East, South, and North. WESN, we entertainment, sports, and news. WESN, available on Greendot 7, Amplia 118, Airlink 17, Bmobile 107, Digicel 21, ICNTT 105, and Flow 110. Connect with us at WESNCC or stream online at www.wesncc.com. WESN, your premier platform for Caribbean content.
Hello and thanks for joining us. Broken Childhoods is the summary of this week's film show. Those of young film stars at the heart of French actress Judith Godrèche's speech at France's César Awards ceremony, and that of the young heroine in the film When It Melts, that's out in France this week. It's the directorial debut of Belgian actress Vel Battens, who joins us in the studio. Hello, thank you for being here.
Nice
but we're going to start with the equivalent of France's Oscars, the César Awards. Lisa Nesselson, were there any surprises?
Well, right up until the final award for Best Film, which went to the dead body / courtroom drama Anatomy of a Fall by Justine Triet, there was a neck-and-neck 5-award tie between that and Thomas Caillet's Animal Kingdom, an ambitious, otherworldly tale set in a near future in which some people start transforming into animals. Aria Warthaler won Best Actor for playing real-life violent radical Pierre Goldman in The Goldman Case. And Sandra Hüller, who immediately pointed out that she happens to be German, and there's been some mistake, won Best Actress for Anatomy of a Fall. Next stop for Anatomy, the Oscars, where it has 5 nominations.
Okay, it looks very hopeful for them as well. For many, though, the highlight of the evening was the impassioned speech given by the actress Judith Godrèche, who recently pressed charges against 2 prominent French directors for sexual abuse when she was a minor. She called for a new era of truth around the issue of sexual abuse and harassment in France's film world after decades of silence and denial, Lisa.
Well, Godrèche implored the film industry to modify prevailing attitudes when it comes to inappropriate, even criminal behavior by directors operating from a position of power and authority. The directors who 51-year-old Godrèche is accusing of rape when she was under 15 are now almost 80. You do the math. Both directors deny the accusations. There was widespread praise for her speech, and some commentators even said that there will be a before and an after the 2024 Césars.
It's definitely rocking the film world here in France. Tell us then about some acceptance speeches that stood out for you.
Well, versatile Raphael Quenard, who won Promising Male Newcomer for his role in Junkyard Dog, thanked the protesting farmers of France, quite sincerely, for the trouble they go to grow vegetables and grains so that we don't go hungry. And he's promising, all right. Last year he appeared in 8 films, and he has 3 more in the can. Kauter Ben-Hanias called for a ceasefire in the Israel-Hamas war. She said that war criminals are walking around while Alexei Navalny is dead and Julian Assange may be next. Her documentary, 4 Daughters, which is also up for an Oscar, shows the toll on a Tunisian family with 4 girls, 2 of whom are attracted to becoming terrorists.
And the director, Christopher Nolan, won an honorary César for his career. He's been on the awards ceremony circuit with Oppenheimer alongside France's Justin Trier, who's been winning awards for The Anatomy of a Fall. Nolan emphasised how much France's love and support for film has inspired him.
I mean, it's interesting. You get to know the filmmakers a little bit. I've had the pleasure of meeting Justine Trier a couple of times, and yeah, you go on a crazy journey together. But it's honestly just an honor to be included with fantastic movies like Anatomy of a Fall. Yeah, it's just sort of a fun thing to meet other filmmakers and go through that with them.
And French actress Agnès Jaoui also received an honorary Oscar. She said in her speech that she's always wanted to play the Olympia, the storied music hall where the ceremony takes place. So she made good on that by singing a ditty while strumming a ukulele.
Sounds like your cup of tea for sure. Let's move on then to the releases of the week. And your film, Veule Battante, When It Melts, it's about a young woman exploring a heavy childhood trauma. We won't give any more away. Thank you for being with us. This is your first feature film as a director, and it was applauded at the Sundance Film Festival. We're going to talk about it in just a moment, but let's take a look.
Heb je zin om een spelletje te spelen?
Als je uitslaat of ze doen stomme dingen, dan kom ik mij vertellen.
Eva?
Maar Eva, schat, ik had je helemaal niet herkend.
Wat heeft hij gedaan? We doen niks verkeerd, hè. Het is gewoon een spel. We vinden die meisjes gewoon mooi.
Now, the film was adapted from the widely translated 2016 Flemish bestseller by Lise Spit, The Melting. Lisa, what's it about?
Now, in the opening frames, we observe Eva, a young woman who works as a photographic assistant in Brussels. She has a younger sister and the demeanor of somebody who is always socially awkward. Gradually, very gradually, with care and suspense, flashbacks fill us in on Eva's childhood and one summer in particular. Eva was such close friends with 2 boys that the trio was called the 3 Musketeers. But children can be spectacularly cruel to each other, and adults don't always do the right thing. When Eva returns to her childhood village for a memorial event, she takes not a suitcase with her, but a turtle and an enormous block of ice we watch her make in a big freezer.
Okay, well, let's talk about the film Veil. To give some background on your career, audiences may recognise you as the main character in The Broken Circle Breakdown. It won the César for Best Foreign Film here in France. You also won Best Actress at the Tribeca Film Festival and were widely honoured for your performance here in Europe. This film, When It Melts, it is a very dark and traumatic story. Why did you want to adapt it for the screen?
Because I felt when I read the book, I was shattered by this strangling loneliness of this character, and also the fact that it's so realistic that not everyone is able to get out or survive his trauma or her trauma. And because we live in a society where heroism and getting out of trouble or putting yourself again to fight and we live in that kind of society, but not everyone is able. And we judge people who are not able to stand up again and to fight against their past or what they've been through. So I really wanted to share that. And I wanted to examine also this mechanism of silencing yourself. How come that you don't talk about it? Because I'm someone who likes to communicate, but not everyone is able or not everyone has learned. And if something like that happens, it really shuts you down.
Newcomer Rosa Marchand is 19, but she plays very convincingly a 13-year-old. She won the Best Actress prize at Sundance. How did you find her?
By doing a lot of auditions. But already from the beginning when I saw her, she was very special. She did audition for the youngest sister first. She had inscribed herself, like I think I'm too young to play the main part, and so she did audition for Tess. And then she was very quiet and shy in real life, but from the moment she started playing, something big came out, something enormously overwhelming and powerful. And so she has this capacity to dive into a character and being able to show emotions in such a natural way. It came so natural to her to play, actually, to act. And that's very rare in a child. And the fact that she's 16 at that moment, and that she looks 13 was very, very good for us. So yeah, she stole our hearts immediately. So she kept on moving on till the end of the auditions, and then okay, it's going to be Rosa.
Now, there were some very difficult moments in the film to watch and I imagine to play as well. And how did you prepare these young people to shoot the traumatic event that haunts Eva's life?
I didn't want to make a film about trauma by causing trauma. That would be too stupid. I'm an actress myself for 20 years, so I know what it is, what kind of place it is, acting. It's a fragilizing, is it a word in English? Or it's a place that you want to please your director, so you're ready to do anything for this person, and the director wants to make the best movie he or she can, so she's also ready to go far, so it needs to be protected. And I think it's a lot of work in advance, a lot of time with the kids together to get to know each other, spending time. And then of course there's this psychologist who was attached to the project from workshops already into the readings. Certain kids went into therapy, and then she was there, of course, with the scene of I'm not going to talk, but the key scene. She was there to guide us because we tend to consolidate or to take each other in the arms to stay in the same place where you shot it, but actually you need to get them out and change ideas, play games, physical games, funny games, so that it won't set in. It won't like real trauma does, actually. So, and also aftercare. I really believe that you need to keep on following them. You took a very important place in their lives, in their development at a moment where they're very, like 15. I mean, it's an age where everything happens. So the character is formed. So you need to still keep touch and get them together again, and that's what we're trying to do.
When It Melts is out in France now, and we're going to end the show with the blockbuster release of the week, Lisa, June 2. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, and we saw part 1 in 2021, and this is being positioned as the first blockbuster of 2024. It is very ambitious, isn't it?
Very visually ambitious, for sure. And the cast is top-heavy with talented people of all ages. The themes in Frank Herbert's book from almost 60 years ago are awfully pertinent today. climate change, the usurping of tribal lands for mining, the way fundamentalism appeals to poor and marginalized people, and chillingly, the manipulative techniques whereby populations put their faith in a messiah-like figure. One of the most wildly entertaining documentaries of the last decade is Jodorowsky's Dune, the sad yet hilarious tale of how wildly imaginative Argentine auteur Alejandro Jodorowsky was thwarted in his attempt to make Dune in the 1970s with French producers and with Salvador Dali, Gloria Swanson, Orson Welles, David Carradine, and Mick Jagger in the cast.
Wow, that sounds incredible. And thank you so much, Lisa. We're going to leave you now with Dune Part 2. Thank you so much. And thank you to today's guest, Val Batens. When It Melts is in cinemas now. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Never lose me ball trainings.
We gave them something to hope for.
That's not hope!
May thy knife chip and shatter.
In 2024, discover France 24's new look. New content, more live reports, bringing the news to you faster. All our teams are working hard to bring you the best news coverage. France 24 is reinventing itself. See you on March the 4th.
A ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas takes shape in Qatar. Both sides, however, downplaying a truce is imminent. Joe Biden and Donald Trump secured their respective primaries in Michigan. The current president, however, dealt a stinging rebuke by the state's Arab American community over his support of Israel. And the French Senate to vote on whether to enshrine abortion rights into the Constitution. The measure could face hurdles in the body after it sailed through Parliament last month. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24. First, a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas appears to be taking shape, but nothing is imminent for now. Both sides are downplaying a statement from US President Joe Biden that a truce could go into effect from Monday. The deal, which is still being ironed out in Qatar, would include a 6-week pause in fighting and the release of up to 40 hostages in exchange for at least 300 Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. For more on this story, here's Andrew Hillier reporting from Jerusalem.
I think here people are very cautiously optimistic. At least that's the language I've heard being used here. You know, talk of truce always raises hopes here, of course, especially amongst the families of those hostages still being held in Gaza. But there has indeed been quite a bit of pushback to Joe Biden's comments. Israeli officials saying that there's still a long way to go. Also, some saying even that Biden's comments took them by surprise. Hamas, for its part, saying that any talk of a deal was premature. Now, that deal, that draft deal we're referring to, was put together at those Paris talks over the weekend by American, Israeli, Egyptian and Qatari officials. Under the terms of that framework, there would be provisions in place for a temporary ceasefire and also a phased exchange of Palestinian prisoners for Israeli hostages. In the meantime, there are talks ongoing in the Qatari capital